Hello everyone, welcome back to DataGym Center. I'm happy to have you back, and today I'll be treating you to one of those other ways to import multiple Excel sheets into SAS. And today's method or technique is the shortest that you can find. So it's easy to have only how many lines of code that actually does the job. So I have just these few lines of code. What we're going to be using is this Excel libname engine. So we are using the Excel engine, using this libname to assign this Excel file, or this Excel file. You have the path, and then we have the file to this libref. So it's just this simple. So the previous tutorial we talked about how to use macro, okay, to do that. The downside is that if you have 100 sheets to import, then that would mean you would have to call them 100 times. Then that is 100 lines of code, so that may be very cumbersome. So but this method kind of cuts that behind. So it means you can import as many number of sheets as possible with just these lines of code, with just these few lines of code. Okay, so let's get started. To start, let me just clear whatever I have there. So to start, we remember we did it the last time. So we assigned this directory or this folder that is holding this data set the name dir. So anytime SAS sees dir with this ampersand, it remembers us that this is what we're talking about. Okay, and then we assign this data set, which is here, we assign it to this dat underscore in, so which is date in or data in. So anytime SAS sees this, SAS recognizes that you're talking about this. So to just get started, we only need to say libname. We create a libref, pretty much like what we did the last time. The only thing we didn't have in the last exercise and the last tutorial was this Excel engine here, before we specify the file that we are importing or the data set. Okay, so everything here, I think you should be familiar with this already. So and then you should be somehow familiar with this, except that we are adding an Excel engine right between the libref or the library reference and the file or the data set we are bringing in. So what we're going to be doing is just to I'm just going to just highlight everything from here from line 1 to, or from line 3 to line 6. Okay, then let's run it. So let's check the log to see if there's any mistake, if we made any mistake of our import is successful. Let's see what it tells us. So it tells me, I think you should be familiar with this already too, that we have the libref, this, which is the library reference, which is the name we are giving that folder, so to speak, or the library that will contain all our SAS associated files or SAS related files. So it was successfully assigned, and the engine was Excel, and the physical name was just this directory here. Okay, so what this does is that it pulls the content or the sheets in this file in this data in this file, this Excel file, and then How do I explain it so that you can understand it very clearly? So actually what it does is this: it prints out the content of this worksheet, okay, of all the sheets here in this file. If there are 1,000 sheets in this file, it prints out the content, but you do not have access to the content except you tell SAS to show you, because SAS doesn't just throw it at you. So you remember, see here, this is only what SAS tells you, that everything was done right, okay. So you need to tell SAS, oh, show me what you have been able to import. So what SAS does here is this. So or what we're going to be doing is we are going to be using the pro content. Remember that is going to show you the content of your folder, of your data set, okay, the content. So this is going to show us the content of whatever is inside data set that is inside this file that we've just added, okay, to this libref, okay. So to do that, we are going to, you remember the last time we used we said we would have to call or tell SAS that, oh, I'm going to this folder. So let's come here to the libraries. You will see that IRI file or IRI file is already created. So if you open it, you will see that this is our sheets, okay. We have the iris 1, iris 2, iris 3, iris 4, okay. We have all our data set or our sheets already imported here. So we see it here. We can just click it individually to see whatever we want to see or to do whatever we want to do, but here we need to use this syntax to print it to this window, okay. We need to see, remember, it's pro content and we have to supply the data set, and in this case we are saying that you should go to this folder, which is where we are in, and pull out all, okay. So we have the all here, you know, because we want to see the content. So we are saying that go to this folder and list every SAS files in this library, okay. Go to this library or folder in this case and list all the SAS files here, and the NODS here stands for no details. I want minimal outputs, okay. I don't want too much details, I just want data, okay. In this case I just want the data. So what I'm saying in essence is that when I run this code, it's just going to tell me that this and this and this and these are in this folder. It lists them and tells me what they are, whether they are data set or whatever they are, it tells me, okay. So now let's run it. Okay, here we are, minimal output, not too much details. So that is what we wanted, that's what we specified. And now we have the name. These are the names of our sheets. Remember, we have iris. Remember, we duplicated them: iris 1, iris 2, iris 3, iris 4. Iris 4 is the same thing as this, but the only thing is that the first column, not the first, is it the first column or so? We added 4,000 just to identify it as a new data set, okay. So, and it tells us that these are what we have here, data set. So let's go back and have a look at one of them. So to pull out the data, so we need to pull out the data set. We need to actually print the data set into this window. To do that, we just use the usual data step to do that, okay. So what we're going to be doing is we are creating a new data set called data all or data combine, whatever you want to call them. So whatever you want to call them, or whatever you want to call this a new data set or table you're creating, data combined set. I want you to use this data set here, but I want, I need to tell SAS exactly which of this data set here I want to print, okay. Remember, so to do that, just pass this library and tells us that, you know, I just want you to grab this data set called iris, which is this data set. So let's do it. If I run this, I would have to provide an additional step to print it out, but to eliminate that step, or to make it a little easier for us, I had to next. So I had to nest this print statement in this data step. Okay, so the prop print is nested within, so which means whatever I have here is what it will print for me. I don't have to specify it down here. Again, that kind of reduces the work that I will have to do. So let's print and see what is the content. So here we are. So easy, so direct, and so short. So remember, in the last step we combined all this. How do we combine them? One of these steps is probably to go through the conventional means or ways, where we would have to say, you know what, combine one or not combine. Iris, import iris, another data step, or maybe we can write a macro for it. Okay, to do that, another data step, import this, another data step, import this, another data, import this, another data step, import this last one, excuse me, and then we use a data step, in a different data step to combine all this data set. But that is not what we're going to be doing today. So if you've been if you are conversant with wildcards, I think you'll find it interesting here, because we are going to be using this wildcard here, this column here, to mean, or to tell us that I want you to import everything that starts with iris. Okay, remember our data set starts with iris, so I need to just put it right in front here, in front of it. So I need to put it here. So the wildcard tells us to import all our sheets or data set here, starting with iris. Okay, because if you look, iris down here. So what SAS will do is we scan this and look for the word iris, or look for this pattern here, iris, and match it to whichever table here or data set here has that pattern. Okay, so let's see. When we do this, we are going to import everything. We are going to just print everything out to the window. So yeah, so let's do it. So remember, it's the new data set you're creating, and then you are saying, I want you to use this new old data here that was created in this or those sheets that are added to this library. Okay, remember, we use the pro content to check out, or to check them out, to know, or to list these sheets. So remember, we use the set statement to tell us to use this, or giving this data, or just use this data, or from this data set create a new data set here called combine, and I want you to print out the output. So let's just run it without much ado. So yeah, let's go to the log and just have a quick look. You see what it did? It did exactly what it did, what SAS did too in the last tutorial, because these were variables that are separated by a period. You see, so it converts the period to underscore. So here is telling us that the import the data set, the first one was 150, 150, 150, 150. So we have how many data sets? About 3, 1 to 5. Okay, and now it tells us that these are the data sets that were imported. One is this iris underscore 1. So remember in the last tutorial, the total of all these data sets, sorry about that, should be 750 observations and 5 variables, and that is exactly what we have here, with just a few steps. How many lines of actual code? So you have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, you can actually line all these up to make one. So which means you have only 5 lines of code doing the job for you. Okay, so that is really pretty easy. So the advantage of this method is that it is not restrictive, okay, and you don't have to code too long to get all your sheets inside SAS. Code less, do more. Code less, import more. So if you have 100 sheets, just use the same method and just print it out. Okay, if you have 100 sheets and you are interested in just capturing a few of the sheets, so then that will be fine. So this does not require you to have or to number or to name all the sheets the same way. Okay, you can just call them, but it's easier to use this wildcard when they have something, when all the sheets have something in common. In this case, they have iris in common. I'll just say iris, anything that contain iris, just give it to me, and then you have it there. Okay, so let's now save this data set. Let's save it. Okay, we want to save it permanently. Remember, this is our library reference, so we can just add it to this data, and then we don't want to print, so let's just add an asterisk here, so that comments it out. It means when SAS runs this, SAS will not evaluate this, so SAS will not run this. Okay, it won't print it out. So anything in green here is either is a warning or is a comment. So let's run it. So we want it to be physically saved, to be saved on our physical machine. So when we save it, we check it and see how far we have gone. So let's run. Yeah, that is done. Let's go to our log. Always use the log. See, it's fine, everything is fine. And let's come here to our folder to be sure that we have it saved. Okay, what folder did we use? Okay, let's check here. Okay, we have it here combined. Okay, so we have it here. The reason why it is not saved, I think that was an oversight. The reason why it was not saved here was because when I specify this here, when the library reference is for this data set, okay, ultimately this data set, not this directory, okay, it cannot save it inside the Excel or on top of the Excel file. Okay, it can only save it here. So that's all for today. Remember, you just need to call what we used to call here, and then you have the library name or the lib name, and then you give it the library reference. You specify the engine, and then you tell SAS where to find the data set or the file containing all the sheets. Remember, you have no restrictions on the number of sheets you can import using this method. So you can import as many as 100 sheets at a time. So you can use pro contents to view the content or to list all the files in the library. And this NODS is often must be used with this underscore all underscore, okay, which means we want only minimal output, so not too much details. And then you can combine datasets with this one-step data step, so which is you create a new data set and then you tell SAS where to find the data that you will be using, and then you run and you are done. Okay, so if you found this useful, I want you to please subscribe to our channel, because we need you to continue to view our videos. If you found it interesting, we want you to tell your friends, your cousins, whoever you think may benefit from this video. So you should start by just subscribing to our channel, and always click on the notification bell, so that when new videos are uploaded, you will be the first to see it. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.